Als nächster Punkt auf der Tagesordnung folgt ein Bericht von Herrn Halicki und Herrn Nemec. Hier geht es um den Gesamthaushaltsplan der Europäischen Union für das Haushaltsjahr 2026, alle Einzelpläne. Und ich gebe zunächst dem Rapporteur Andrzej Halicki das Wort für 4 Minuten. Bitte schön.
Dear Minister, dear Commissioner, dear colleagues, welcome to this debate on the position of Parliament on the budget of the European Union for 2026. The EU budget is an investment budget designed to provide the necessary resources to all European citizens who can benefit from common action. Experts agree to say that the EU budget is a crucial tool for a robust and stronger Europe. And this is also recognised by our citizens, who rightfully expect more and more from the EU budget. The latest Eurobarometer 2025 survey highlights Europeans' expectations for security, unity and more resources to address global challenges. In the face of geopolitical uncertainty, citizens across the Union are calling for stronger protection and greater solidarity. And this is exactly what Parliament's position is about. Back in April, the Parliament adopted a strong set of guidelines for the financial year ahead of us, underlining the importance of strategic preparedness and security, as well as economic competitiveness and resilience. We made it clear that we expect the 2026 budget to provide people in the European Union with a robust ecosystem to deliver on their priorities in a prosperous Europe. Since then, the Commission submitted its draft budget. Unfortunately, it does not come as a great surprise to the European Parliament that the Council cuts the Commission's proposal. The Council proposed to make unjustified cuts across a series of programmes, I would like to say flagship programmes, without proper justification. We oppose all these cuts. If it is expected from the European Union to enhance its action, it is not acceptable to cut the funding of the Union where it is needed. Overall, we support the draft budget of the European Commission, and we have looked, as Parliament, in a very responsible way to areas where funding has proven insufficient, where more is needed. We are deeply aware of the critical situation of the Union budget, which is a victim of its success and provides for too limited availabilities compared to all the challenges ahead. This is why our position is a reasonable one, which only proposes essential and targeted increases. I would like to underline a few priorities. We need to support our business, especially small and medium enterprises and our researchers who work for a better future in Europe. Therefore, we propose to reinforce Horizon Europe and the Connected Europe facility, some of our most successful programmes. We need to ensure the protection of our citizens, so we also confirm Parliament's strong support to further strengthen the Union civil protection mechanism. Agriculture is another key pillar for the Union. Our farmers, and particularly young farmers, need continued support for the promotion of their products and to maintain profitability. This is also a widely shared priority in this House. Security. Security is another core concern of EU citizens, along with the need to strengthen our defence capabilities. We propose to reinforce key programmes in these areas, namely on asylum, migration, border management and military mobility. As we are living in a global world, we are directly affected by what's happening outside our borders, including the continued illegal war of aggression by Russia and Ukraine. For this reason, we put forward essential increases of funds allocated to our southern and eastern neighbourhood, as well as humanitarian aid. Dear colleagues, we have a strong support for several groups. I would like to emphasise our very good cooperation with shadow rapporteurs. We achieved this majority on the committee level. Now I expect that it will be adopted by the whole Parliament, and I am looking forward for the cooperation during our negotiations also with the European Commission and with the Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I pass the floor to the co-rapporteur, Matjaž Nemec.
Thank you, dear Chair, dear Minister Wammen, dear Commissioner Sarafin, dear colleagues. Today we will debate on our priorities for the next year budget of the Union. This is an important moment for the Parliament, where we set our policy priorities and how to finance them. Our common approach reflects our common values. In addition, it sets the course of the future of Europe as we see it. We are, of course, part of the globalized world with many ongoing conflicts, including on our borders. We are also exposed to geopolitical events, and we also have to respond to the urgent challenges, including cybersecurity. In the last year, the EU adopted several groundbreaking legislative initiatives, such as the Digital Services Act, the Digital Market Act, of the Artificial Intelligence Act, just to name some of them. Consequently, we task the European Union institutions to implement these initiatives and monitor their application. But to be able to do that, the EU institutions must be able to do their job. And for them to be able to do so, we must give them sufficient sources. If we can talk the talk, but do not walk the walk, we put all our institutions in a difficult situation and the Union at risk. Dear colleagues, so our key priorities are reflected in our budget proposal, and considering the difficult overall financial situation in the EU budget, we are being very responsible in planning it. And I believe that our proposal demonstrates just that. Our position is very focused, very reasonable, and very targeted to real goods. However, certain differences between our institutions remain. But we have a common task to deliver for our citizens. It is them we serve, not ourselves. As the reporter for other sections, my message is clear. We must enable our institutions to have enough staff to deal with their increased tasks and responsibilities and mandatory expenses. But also they need to be able to protect themselves from the new realities, such as cybersecurity issues. More efficient and safe EU institutions are our common interest. So, dear Minister Wammen, dear Commissioner Sarafin, I'm sure we will be able to find a common ground that will be based on the real needs for each of our institutions. They are the backbone of the European Union, working for our citizens, but also the member states, and that the result in the end will be good one. I'm looking forward to today's debate, and I thank you for your attention. Thanks also to my colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now I pass the floor to Minister Nicolai Wammen on behalf of the Council.
Madam President, honourable members, rapporteurs, Mr. Commissioner. I am honoured to attend the European Parliament's debate on its position on the draft budget for 2026. It is clear that the European Parliament and the Council share many key priorities for next year's budget. However, unsurprisingly, there are also notable differences in expenditure levels. The Council's position aims to safeguard key EU priorities by ensuring an appropriate level of funding. This includes enhancing Europe's defence readiness and preparedness, as well as managing migration pressures. We live in difficult times, and therefore we must prioritise and ensure that the budget for 2026 allows the Union to act effectively without unnecessarily increasing the pressure on national budgets and taxpayers. We need margins and flexibility for the EU budget to cope with war, crisis and challenges, notably Ukraine and the Middle East, but also the unforeseen ones. If almost all margins and special instruments are consumed, how can we then guarantee the flexibility to cope with unforeseen challenges? Dear colleagues, the Council would not be able to approve all the European Parliament's amendments should you vote them through tomorrow. In addition, the Council remains fully committed to the agreement on the 50-50 split for euro interest cost that was reached last year. With this in mind, I find it difficult to understand the idea from Parliament of excluding liquidity cost from the 50-50 benchmark. These costs have been a part of the interest cost since the very beginning. To conclude, we share many priorities, but we also have serious work to do in the coming weeks. Dear colleagues, tonight I reaffirm the Council's willingness to reach a balanced agreement, and I am sure that the Commission will assist us in finding sound and reasonable compromises. Let me therefore conclude by expressing my sincere hope that by working together we will be able to find the best answers for Europe. And the good news is we have done it together before, and I'm convinced we can do it together again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I pass the floor on behalf of the Commission to Commissioner Piotr Serafin.
Madam President, honourable members, dear rapporteurs, dear Minister, first I would like to congratulate both co-rapporteurs, Mr. Halicki and Mr. Nemec, for their work. You have reached a compromise on all amendments and prepared a strong position of the European Parliament. It is not surprising that at this point of the budgetary process, the position of the European Parliament and the position of the Council diverge, and rather substantially. In a week, we will start the conciliation, and hopefully these divergences will start to shrink. But today, let me thank you for the amendments proposed by the Parliament that reinstate the expenditure at the level proposed in the draft budget by the European Commission. I have been clear and consistent that the Commission does not consider Council's cuts as adequately justified. Of course, I also note that the Parliament proposes reinforcements in a number of programmes across all headings that go on top of the draft budget. We will need to treat such reinforcements very cautiously. The remaining financial resources are limited, and we will have to prioritise. We must focus on programmes where meaningful adjustments can be made, and concessions on both sides will be necessary. We should remember that reinforcements in this year's budget will compromise our capacity to respond to foreseeable and, more importantly, unforeseeable needs in the budget for 2027. We have to preserve some budgetary space to avoid a risk of cuts in the spending programmes in the last year of the current multi-annual financial framework. I urge you to consider this issue with utmost prudence. I would like to ask the Parliament and the Council to consider the amending letter of the European Commission as a starting point in the negotiating process. That letter addresses some concerns of both institutions, in particular the payment appropriations, agriculture and the EU URI interest line. I am confident that the negotiations will continue in a positive spirit and that the Parliament and the Council will manage to reconcile their positions. As actually was mentioned also by Minister Wammen, that experience is already there. Let me assure you again that I and my team will spare no effort to support your work throughout the conciliation to reach a good compromise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I pass, on behalf of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, the floor to Michael Gahler.